Windows logs in Windows, pun intended. Welcome everyone to another video. This is SecGen. My name is Tolu. On today's video, we are going to look into Windows log analysis with Sysmon. First off, we are going to know what is Windows logs. We are also going to go into the different categories of Windows logs. And we are going to also go into the important security event of Windows logs. Right after that, we are going to go deep dive into Sysmon. What is Sysmon? How do we use Sysmon to get more granular logs in Windows? This will give us more understanding and in-depth review of how logs are collected in Windows and how we could use them in our different SIEM tools. Let it be Wazuh, let it be whatever SIEM tool that you want to use in your environment. We are going to deep dive more into the Windows logs. So ride along with me as we look into this and get more understanding of what Windows logs are and how we could use Sysmon to get more granular logs for our SIEM tools. Good. So now let's deep dive into it. Let's see how we could understand Windows log analysis with Sysmon. So what I kind of did here, what we are going to be going back and forth together around is I have a slideshow presentation which has some information which I want to talk about, the major points which I want to talk about. I also have my domain controller, which is here, which we're going to look into the Windows event logs that we could see from here and how we could understand the different Windows logs that are more a pattern to us. And I also have this page. This page is where the ultimate IT security. This page gives you more granular understanding of the different kind of logs in Windows. So let's say be it whatever logs you're looking for in Windows. If you want more explanation on how the logs look like, we could always come in here and put in the different logs that we're trying to look for, read more description about it, and even see how the log is being collected. Let's say even the XML form, we could see how the XML form of the logs are being shown here and how they are going to be ingested into any of the SIEM tools we are going to be using. So let's get started. What is Windows log analysis? That is the first question we're going to understand, right? Is the process of reviewing system generated logs. So think of it as something as a central place and where all the logs, be it application logs, be it whatever, in your computer, in your domain controller, in your normal PC, is being logged. Every single thing that happens on your endpoint device is being logged here. What can we do with these different logs that we actually get from here? One of the major things that we could actually do here is it's used to detect anomalies and investigate incidents and audit activities. So what does that mean? For us to be able to send alerts when we see attackers entering our systems, for us to be able to see if there are child processes that are running on our endpoint devices that are not meant to be there. That is what Windows logs are for. And commonly, as we see this video, it's more about for security operations, for us to be able to know the different things that happen on your endpoint. If we see any abnormalities, then we could also look into it for your endpoint devices. So right about now, there's something which I want us to go. So I'm just going to close this so that we could have this all over up again. The first thing that we need to do is that there's something called the event viewer. So let's go there. Let's look up that. So the event viewer is the central place in Windows where all the logs are created under. For here, we could see that it is broken down into the different types of logs. So under Windows logs, we have the application logs, the security logs, the setup, systems, and forwarded events. And the coming slides, which I'm going to eventually share again, we are going to see what this means. But the event viewer is the central place where every single logs that we have in Microsoft or every single logs that we do need are all in one central place. In here, we could see the event viewer. So in this part, this is where we could see all the events that are being logged in your environment. We could see from here the log summary. The log summary shows the different kind of logs and the sizes of how they are being logged in our environment. Good. How do we also see the different logs? So in this portal here, if you go back to logs, just give me a minute from here. Good. So if you see the Windows audit logs, if you come back to the Windows audit logs, we could see all the major logs that we have in our environment. I'm sure you remember about the 4624 logs. That is like someone logged into a system successfully. We also have the 4625, which is someone tried to log in but had a failed login. Here, we could see all the major logs that we always need in Microsoft for our use. Now, let's go back to our slides. Let's see what we have next for here. Windows event log categories. So right about here, if we go back in here, we could see that we have the different categories of the Windows logs. Now we're going to quickly look into this, kind of see what are the different types and what do they mean. So first off, we have the application logs. The application logs and record events from users' application. So be it your Microsoft Word, be it the Chrome browser using, be it whatever application on your endpoint device that you use, this is where all the useful logs are being stored. So if an application crashes, this is where we could see the logs. We could see the reason why the it crashed. Was it an application error? Was it something related to your system that did not have something it needed to use to run? We could see it in here. Next we have is the system logs. The system logs track events from Windows system processes and services. So these services that are running on your endpoint devices, be it let's say like a driver issue, a service startup. You know, when a service doesn't start up on your endpoint device, how do we know the different services that are not set up? With the system logs, we could actually go in depth to actually see the reason why they stopped working or why there was a failure for any of the services that are running on your endpoint devices. The major one which we would need is the security log. So this captures like your login attempts, the logout events, the privilege usage in your environment, and even security policies. So if there are any security policies that are changed in your environment, this is where we could see the logs. These are the major logs that we use for detecting unauthorized access to your environment. These are the logs that we use to send out alerts through SIEMs. These are the logs we used for investigations in our environment. Let's say someone, we see a lot of failed logins. Why do we see a lot of failed logins? With those logs, we could actually see the reason why we have a lot of failed logins. The next one is the forwarded events. So this shows logs collected from other systems. So if you see my environment here, I have only one domain controller. If I have a forest of domain controllers, let's say 2, 3, or 4 domain controllers in one space, I could forward all the logs from those different domain controllers to a central one instead of installing Sysmon on a lot of endpoint devices. So this breaks it down for me so that I just have it all the logs in one central plane. So we also still have more Windows event log categories. So we have the setup logs, we have the PowerShell logs, we have the Sysmon logs. So the majority of this video and the more reason why we are having more of this is more related to the Sysmon logs. So this is the advanced logging for system activity. So let's say there's a process creation in your environment. We need to see those logs for that. If there are file changes in your environment, if there's a registry access in your environment, or even the more granular part, which is a network connection that we see in your environment, this is where all those logs are being aggregated. And with Sysmon, it makes it far easier for us to have all those logs that we need in one central plane of glass. So think of this as like the CCTV of your computer. Like what I wrote here is ideal for threat hunting and incident response. It gives you all the necessary logs that we need in one plane of glass. So at this point, before we look at the important event IDs that we have, let's go back here and see how we could understand or where we could see the different kind of logs that we have. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, good. Yeah, this is okay. So good. So right inside here, we could see we have the application logs, right? These are where we see all the application logs. So let's say if an application was successfully launched, we could go in here to granularly see the different logs that we have here. If we click on this one, you could see successfully scheduled software protection service. We could see when it was logged, the moment it was logged, the categories, the key, and the source of where it's coming from. So this is a security SPP log that is got in our environment. The application logs gives us a little bit of information, but the majority of we as security, where we get the logs from and where we want to look more into the logs, are related to the security logs. The security logs we could see majorly are more logs of are more of the logs of what we need to look into. If you click the first one here, it shows the log off categories log off, right? Audit successful. So what is it? An account was logged off. What is the event ID code for log off? That is 4634. So we could kind of see now that this is the central place where we could see all the major logs that we have in our environment. It's a central place where we could break down to see, oh, who logged into the system. Like we could see here, this is just my, and this is just my Windows computer in my and the account domain, which is SecGen, which is my domain controller, and the account name, which is the Windows computer, which is my Windows computer that I have connected to my domain controller. So you see with this, we could see all the logs granularly in one plane of glass. We also have the setup logs, and we also have the system logs. With the system logs, there's still a slide which I have, which we're going to go more over to see what it means by having a system logs. And the one thing I always like to look through the system logs here is that we could see between the critical, the warnings, and the verbose error and information. We could see if there are any critical logs that we need to see in our environment. We could also just click on it to see what it says. It says the system has reported without cleanly shutting down first. So I did, my server went off on its own. I don't know why it did. Okay, no, I know why. I don't have a CPU and there was like a power outage. So those kind of logs are being even stored in your environment. So you kind of see down to the granular logs in your environment are all being stored in your event viewer for you to be able to review the logs yourself. This is more about forwarded logs. I really do not have forwarded logs here, so that is one thing. Now let's look at it again. What is the other way that we could see all the logs that we have in our environment? One of the great way we could see the logs that we have in our environment is through your file explorer. If you go into your file explorer, your local disk, go into Windows and go look for the System32 folder. Let's look for the System32 folder here together. The System32 folder is where most of your processes run. So this is the System32 folder. If you scroll down a little bit to the events viewer, so Windows events. So good. If you click on Windows events and click on logs, it's still the same place we see all the logs here, right? Good. Right about now, I think I forgot something which I wanted to go over. So let's say that we're looking at one of these logs here, which is the there's a specific logon which is 64762. We could kind of see this log in the different way that your SIEM tool actually takes the log in. We could see it in the XML view format. So this is how most times the logs in our SIEM tools look like. Let's see if I have my SIEM tool, which is my Wazuh, enabled here for us to actually see how this log is being shown here. Good. 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 Let's see. So good. If you want to even see it in the JSON format, this is the table format. Yeah. So we could actually see how the logs is being ingested into our environment. So we could see the process. This is me trying to run Caldera on the back end. We're going to eventually going to run a video on how Caldera works and the full usage of Caldera in our environment. That's something I'll eventually look into. But yeah, that is much of what it is. Let's go back to the presentation that we have for us to talk more about it. Now we are going to look more into the important Windows security event IDs. These are questions that most times we in security or we in IT in generally they ask us during interviews. I know that there was a time I had an interview which I couldn't even remember what 4624 is. It is not something that you should always cram in your head, but it's something you should understand by yourself. Like we could see here, we have 4624, a successful login. Someone logged into a system successfully. So if you have a picture of mind of a, we could use that in incident response. Let's say an attacker had access to an account in your environment, he had a successful login. We could trace what the attacker did in your environment with different logs that we can get in your environment in the environment. One other log that we could see here is the process creator, which is 4688. So a new program or script was ran in your environment. Let's say an attacker ran a command line, a command through the command line and created a new process and a child process in your environment. With Sysmon and the event viewer logs, we could correlate all those logs together for us to be able to know what is happening in our environment. So these are majorly the event logs that we could look into. I got this from someone's slides. I kind of saw this, so I screenshotted it and just posted because these are the major kind of logs that we need in our environment also. Good. Apart from that, if you can remember when I clicked on systems, we have the level IDs of the different logs that we get in our environment. What does that mean? We could see the level ID for critical 30, something crashed or seriously broke in our environment. Let's see. Good. Let me go back to this, which is my domain controller, and go back to systems for us to understand what the different critical IDs mean. So let's go back to system here. Good. So you see we have critical here. What it means that you could see here it says something crashed or seriously broke. What happened? The system shut off by itself, and that's why we see this here. So it gives us more understanding on, oh, this is what happened here. Why did it happen? And the reason why we need to look into it. So it's more clearer. I think I could also, let's see. So I have critical. Let me put it to warning here. Filter out warning, so we could see the warning logs here too. We have enough warning logs here, and the rest of them, the warning error, something went wrong, logs. Let's see if we have that here. So this is warning. Let me click on error. If there's any error logs, okay, good. Bare error log. So you could see this one, the KDS received invalid message or type change. So this is the key distribution center for Kerberos, right? If you know what Kerberos is, that is the way of authentication with Windows, right? So the key distribution center, which is the key distribution center, is linked to your domain controller, right? Receive invalid message for type change password, right? So if this is, I think this was when I was changing my password. What moment was this? Yeah, this was the 21st. So yeah, I was trying to change my password to my user account, and I'm sure there was an error before it got the right valid message that it needed for me to get the TGT key for me to be able to do the changes that I needed to do on my own endpoint device, on my account in my domain controller. Now let's go into the more meat of what we have for today. What is Sysmon? So Sysmon is a system monitored by Sysinternals. So the purpose is that this is more of a powerful Windows tool that extend the native login. So the normal native capabilities of us receiving the logs, this gives us more overview of that. What does it do? It captures high fidelity system activities missed by standard logs. The normal logs that we get in our environment is okay, but this gives us more granular logs of what we need in our environment, what we kind of need to understand when we as SOC analysts, security engineers, IT guys need to understand what is happening in our environment. The key logs that are collected are process creation, who ran what, who ran a process in your environment, who ran a script in your environment, the network connections, who connected where, what device connected to what Wi-Fi, what RJ45 port cable was connected to the computer. Those kind of logs are all ingested through Sysmon. If there are file changes, who modified the file in our environment, those kind of logs are also collected through Sysmon and the registry access. Um, how do we use this? We could ask. I know we looked into this earlier on. The logs are viewed in your event viewer and they're integrated into the SIEM. So either if like I have Splunk, which I'm going to set up later on and make a video about Splunk. Your Wazuh, your Sentinel for detection and threat hunting that we have in our environment. That is also a way for us to get all the necessary logs that we need in our environment. Just give me a minute. Let me actually quickly see something here. I think I kind of saw something I wanted to speak about. Good. So we could see here, good. Sysmon, the Sysmon log. So all the major logs that we get in Sysmon, when you have Sysmon installed on your endpoint device, it is all correlated and it's all in your event viewer. You may ask yourself, how do we see the logs? If you can remember, Sysmon is an application that we installed on our endpoint device. So what kind of happens when we install something on our endpoint device? This is eventually shown. This is eventually shown under the Microsoft Windows and the applications that we have on our endpoint device or whatever device you kind of see. One thing that we should always remember with this is that the event ID for Sysmon is quite far off from what the event IDs that we have for um, the normal Windows logs. We could see why we're seeing one in general for Sysmon is process creation. So a program or a command was executed, including the full command line. So we as SOC analysts or engineers, security engineers, how do we get granular logs to know what was run on those endpoint devices? Perfectly well. This is the reason why we could get it, because it is all shown in one pane of glass in our event viewer. So let's actually see what this is about. So this was more of the SC that I ran on my endpoint device, the command. So this was more of me using Caldera. All right. This is more of a Caldera that I was running on my endpoint device. That I was trying to see to test my environment, to kind of use Caldera to see the techniques, the TTPs that are in the environment related to the Meteor attack. So in kind of here, we could see all the different levels of event IDs that we have. We have number 13, which is the registry set value. So a registry value was changed in our environment. We could also see more of those logs in here on what registry value was changed and the target object of where that was done on. We could see all those informations in here. Good. Let's move on to see what we have more here. So these are just more of the important Windows system security event IDs that we have in our environment. Number one, we could see the list of them. The major ones, which I know I've seen in my environment, are more of the process creation, which is mainly needed. If someone comes into our environment to create a command line that we ran command for us, a command in our environment that we need to know about, the process creation is there. Network connection, which is a program made a connection to another computer or IP address. And we could also set a file deleted detected. So a file was deleted in your environment. Why was it deleted? What was the reason why this file was deleted? We could also see that DNS query. Good. A program asks Windows to resolve a domain name, something like Google or whatever. We could actually see all that in here. This is the major reason why I made this video or brought this out, is we can eventually see the reason why Sysmon and event logs are needed in our environment. We could kind of see the reason why we need to be able to see all the granular logs in our environment related to the Windows logs and the normal Windows audit logs and the Sysmon logs that we get in our environment. The nice thing about it is the Ultimate Windows Security page gives us more view on the different log types that we have that we could collect from our Windows computer. And if you click on any of them, it just gives us more granular information on the fields that are there. You could see more videos on it. Gives you an example of how the logs will be in a normal format, and also how the logs will be in an XML format also. So this is a very good way for us to be able to get more understanding on Windows logs. If you stay to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching my video on Windows logs and Sysmon. What is going to happen from here onward is that we are going to deep dive more into how we could use the logs in Sysmon to see attacks. We are going to simulate attacks in our environment, and we are going to be able to do incident response together. And we are going to be able to go deep dive on how an actual SOC works. At this point, I would like you guys to like, subscribe, and join the clan. It's gonna be a more in-depth videos I'm gonna be making now. I know I took a little bit of time off from making videos, but I'm back now, full and hearty, ready to work and ready to learn more with you guys. Thank you for watching the video, and see you on the next one. Bye, guys.